Hi, my name is Brynna, and I'm going to be talking about what makes my classroom a really good classroom. So, so the first thing that makes our classroom super fun and really cool is our student-ledness. So, our student-led classroom is basically we lead our classroom, or we try to lead our classroom 99% of the time. So that would mean like my teacher, Mr. Slurs, he wouldn't be reminding us about things. So like we do something called Gimme Five. So like we'd be like, Gimme Five, and then our whole class would have to listen. Not would have to, but like we listen to what they're trying to say. So like Gimme Five, it's time to go out for recess. So like we do our own transitions. Like Mr. Slurs doesn't tell us when to go out to recess. He doesn't tell us when we go to lunch. Like we do everything. And I think that's really helpful for us to learn, because it's like learning us to making us learn responsibility and how to be like really good leaders. And so I think that's like really good for our classroom. The second thing that I have, or not the second thing, I'm just going to go into it, but it's like the educational programs we do. So we just recently did a program called Skills 21, and that was probably one of the most fun programs we've done in such a long time. We did DQ World before, but I'll get into that in a second. But Skills 21 we had two teams. It was like one team. So basically, like, we weren't competing against each other. It was like half of our class was split apart into two teams, because it would have been hard for all of 25 kids in my class to work together. So we just split up into teams. But we get to choose our own superhero characters, and then we were like saving the world from this superhero named the supervillain named Caltron, because he was trying to destroy the world with robots. It sounds kind of kiddish, but sometimes it could be really hard, because we had to learn virtues, and we had to get virtues to do the superpowers, and we had like a packet to like fill out the virtues, because we had to have evidence. So like in order to get the virtue, we had to have a page in our packet, and we would fill out the virtue, like our plan to get the virtue, and then our evidence for the virtue. Then we would turn it into Mr. Solars, and he would be like, okay, I'll take this into account. And when he thinks most of us showed it, then we would get the virtue. And I think that really helps us in real life, because we're like learning like life skills, and that helps us like in the like grand scheme of things. So I think that's really helpful for educational programs like that. And DQ World was about cyberbullying, and I think that was really helpful for us, because we were learning about how not to bully people and how to be kind to each other. And I think that's really helpful, and I think everyone should learn that at one point in like their class time, just like sit down and like talk about cyberbullying and bullying in general. So that was like really fun, and we like got to be like a superhero and do different quizzes and games. Like not a superhero, but we would like be a character, and we would travel through different things and like do quizzes, and it was actually really fun. And so I think that's what makes one of our classroom, like that's one thing that makes, the second thing that makes our classroom great. Another thing that I think makes our classroom great is like the technology we have in our classroom. So right now I'm obviously filming this on a computer, but every day we have some sort of computer that we use in our classroom. We use Google Docs for writing, Skills 21 and DQ World was on the computer. Like all of our YouTube videos we film, our blog posts, just different websites we use. We are on computers 24/7, like every day, and I think that really helps us. Last year, I rarely used computers, but I think the technology we use. So like we have iPads to like use Twitter on, not for like going on Twitter like when we're bored, but we tweet like things we're doing. So like if we were doing, let's say, like science or like learning matter, we would take a picture on our iPad and we would upload it to Twitter, and like we would use hashtags and stuff, and then Mr. Soyers would retweet us, and I think that's just really good. for our classroom, because sometimes like if people think we're like on computers too much, it's because we're playing games, but really like computers, like there can be really boring things on computers too. So I think computers can be really good for us. And so yeah, like most of things we do are on computers. Another thing that I think our classroom is, and I know this is a little like cliche, but we don't have homework, and there's a specific reason for that. Or like we have like blog posts and stuff that are due, but I'm talking almost about like math homework and science homework. So he thinks that if we, my teacher, and I totally agree with him on this, I'm just saying like what we all think. Like we don't have homework because we put our effort in 100% the entire hour we're working, or maybe even like hour and a half. And so he doesn't think we need homework because he thinks our class is really good at putting all of our effort in 100% for the an hour and a half for like the work we do in an hour and a half. He thinks that we like work really well and that we don't like need homework because we're already like putting in enough effort. So I think that's really good for our classroom, because if we work 100%, then I don't think we need homework, and I really like that rule. And sometimes homework can be like unnecessary for things, like it can be just like extra practice almost, but like sometimes it can just make you more stressed. So another thing that he doesn't like want us to have homework is because like it can be really stressful, and he wants us to have I really like that, because one of the reasons he doesn't give us homework is because he wants us to spend a lot of time with our family, and I really respect and appreciate that him for that. So like I'm glad that like he doesn't give us homework, but like he appreciates us working 100%, and then we respect and appreciate him for letting us spend time with our family and do sports, and not like let us like not make us be stressed out for homework. Another thing that I love about our classroom is having classroom meetings. So we would all sit down on the floor, and we would, like, we couldn't sit in any chairs. We would move the tables out of the way. So, like, we have, like, tables, like, in a rainbow shape almost, like, in the middle of our classroom. We would move those to the side, and we would, every single one of us in our classroom would sit on the floor. No chairs, no nothing. Mr. Soares would sit on the floor, and we would talk. Sometimes it's because he wants to explain to us, or sometimes he talks to us about what he thinks we're doing wrong and how we could improve on it. And so I think that's like really helpful like thing to do, because if we're struggling with something, he wants us to make sure we realize that and how we can improve on it. So we talk about what we can improve on, and I think that really stretches our brain and makes us like realize like we're doing this wrong, and that we make an effort to try and fix it. So we do give me five. Like, give me five. I think we're doing, it's really good, so we're trying to keep it up. We're give me five. I think we needed to, stop talking for a little, because that was one of our classroom goals or something. And, so I think, classroom meetings can be really helpful for, our class, because, they help, sometimes they help us realize what we're doing wrong and that we actually need to improve on something, not just push it out of the way and say that's just, he's just saying that we don't actually have to do it, because the classroom meetings make us realize we actually have to do this, we actually have to improve on this. So I think that's another reason that makes our classroom. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is responsibility partners versus regular partners, and I think that makes our class really, really great, because so responsibility partners are different than regular partners, because when you have a regular partner, let's say in math or something, you work together through each problem with each other on a page, and when you have responsibility partners, you're just there to check in with each other. So let's say you were doing blog posts, you would have a responsibility partner, because you guys don't need to work together on each other's blog posts unless we're assigned that. But like, if we had responsibility partners, be like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need any help? And if they're like, yeah, I kind of need help. Can you help me with this? Then I think that really helps us, like, realize, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, we don't, like, just always go to Mr. Solars. We go to each other, which I think helps us as, like, a group, and, like, that helps us with each other. The next thing I'm going to be talking about are simulations we do. So, for example, we did Oregon Trail and Colonize Mars. So, Oregon Trail was, we went on the Oregon Trail. Yeah. Hi.
And so we made a game.
And so, the simulations we have, like, so Oregon Trail was,
You probably think that.
I don't know how to explain it. So we were, actually I'm going to start with Colonize Mars because that's before Oregon Trail, but, so Colonize Mars was, we made a personal packing list, we made a professional packing list. So, like, we all had jobs. You got to, like, make your own character almost. So, I was Nakora Henare. I was from New Zealand, and I was a microbiologist. So, my professional packing list would have to do with microbiologist. Carmen, what was your job for Colonize Mars?
I was in geology.
So, Carmen would have to have things that, like, to pick rocks and, you know, things that a geologist does. And, so, like, it was all different because we all did different things. We were all a different part of this community. And so we made our own government on Mars. So, like, we traveled through Mars, like, it was a 6-month journey, 6 months. But, it only took, like, a day to get there, like, in a school day. But then, like, we set up our own government on Mars. We set up our own house on Mars. And it was just a really good way to learn, like, to work with each other and do different things with each other. And then at the end, we transitioned into Oregon Trail by crashing, like, the radiation of our thing made our spaceship crash back into Earth. But we traveled back in time into 1843, and that's when we started the Oregon Trail. And so we went on this journey, and we got sick, and we helped each other. We packed food, and we lost a Conestoga wagon. So it all felt very real, and I think those helped us learn more about Mars, more about the Oregon Trail, more about packing, just like all these lessons packed into these simulations that I thought were really cool. And so, my next one is how our teacher teaches things differently. So, like, for science, we do blog posts instead of, like, an hour lesson, like almost like a lecture. He lets us do blog posts and, like, reflection questions on the blog post, and it's actually really cool. So another example is, like, for writing. So last year we did WEX. It was an hour lecture, so it's just constantly writing, like, what, how would you respond to this, write it down, how would you respond to this, write it down, do this, write it down. So our new writing thing is called Write Steps, and our teacher is Mrs. Van Rouden. She's really nice, and she's a really good teacher. And so it's all on computers again, like our writing thing. So she would be like, write a narrative, type a narrative about, so the thing that I was currently working on, I ended it, like, today, was how plants, animals, and decomposers work together. So, like, how they all work together, and we would type a narrative, and we would revise it and edit it, and she would make videos on how we do it. So, but last year it was, like, all on paper, and I think this year was more fun because we got to, like, do different things, and we got to learn about responsive narratives, research papers, different verb tenses, and she all explained it very well. So I really like that about Write Steps. And he, most of the things that is different, like, is on computers. So for reading, last year if we were doing a reading lesson, it would be an hour lesson about reading a book and put different things in the book. Right now, how we focus on reading is called literature circles. And you can find on our channel, like, we do different lit circles, like filled with different questions, and like we would read a number of pages, like we would read like 20 pages a day, and then like it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so instead of having it every day a week, we would have to finish our reading, and we would do lit circle summaries, like what happened in those pages. And I think that's really good for us because it's a different way of like learning how to read and different like things. And for our lessons, like you might think like, oh, the lectures are more helpful because you're not learning anything. He would do 15 minutes lessons, like everything that a teacher would teach you in an hour jammed into one. So it was almost like reading and typing and learning plus mini lessons equals like more than a full lesson. So he would teach us about like he would teach us about the verb tenses in reading. He would teach us about past tenses. Like he would teach us about all these different things in the mini lesson. I think that's really helpful. So I really like that. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is flexible seating choices. So we get to usually if he says like go to your assigned seats, and we go to our assigned desks. But we usually just we usually just get to sit anywhere we want. I think that really helps us because like we're more comfortable while we're writing, so we have more of an open space. And so like we get to sit in these spinny like swivel chairs and ball chairs, and sometimes that can be distracting, but mostly it just makes us more comfortable, so that makes us like learn more. So I think that's like really helpful for us having some flexible seating choices. So you can walk through, it's fine. So one of my last things is flexible seating choices. So not flexible seating choices, jobs. So we have different, so in the end of the year we assign jobs. So I was the chair stacker and the inspector, I think, but you basically get to do any job you want. So like I can take pictures on our class camera, I can tweet things, even though there's a specific job, which I think is really good because we get to explore all these different things. The last thing I'm going to be talking about is goals. So at the end of the day, we have goals. So like at the end of the day we have evaluate. And so we decide a different goal each day, and then we try and do that goal. So like have less side conversations. So we would work on that and try for the next day and for the rest of the year have less side conversations. I think that's really helpful when we have goals. So now I'm going to be talking about the skills, one of the main skills that I've gained during this year. And I think the biggest one is responsibility, because sometimes I can lose things and not care about them. But this year,
start to wrap it up in the next minute or two.
Okay. And so, I was just careless, but this made me feel like this classroom Mr. Soares was take care of your things. This made me realize I actually have to take care of these things. And with a student-led classroom, we had to be on task and be responsible with things. So I think that's the biggest skill that I've gained. So the special events that we did is cardboard challenge and inventors challenge. So the cardboard challenge we did was we made this game out of cardboard, like an arcade game. And my friend Carmen, say hi. We did this game. So we would have this box and we would try and roll the ball through a maze, try and get it to the end. So it was a really cool game. And that made us think of you just get our head out of electronics and try and focus on making things, and it was just a really cool experience. Another thing we did was an inventors challenge, and so we made our own prototype. Mr. Soares' video is 19 minutes long. Our inventors challenge was we made a prototype of something, and we tried to make this thing an invention almost, and try to follow through with it. And we made a YouTube video and things. It was just really cool. So how we work to be kind to each other. So I think picking sticks is one of the most things about it. It's when we're partnered up, we just pick 2 sticks and they are together. We can't complain or anything. And I think that really helps us with being kind to each other because we can't complain. So yeah, and we're always mostly okay. So that was what I think makes our classroom great. Bye.